Welcome to the Straight Out of Home Video podcast, part of the Geeky Waffle Network. Today we're talking about the Willow series. I'm Candace, and with me is my fellow waffles, Arezou.
Hello.
And Krista.
Hey.
So, the Willow series is a sequel to the 1980s movie Willow that was directed by Ron Howard, and Warwick Davis is back as Willow. Yay!
Yay!
I do love he's a sorcerer and his growth in the in-between time. And we do get to see some flashbacks, which is pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think of his portrayal? Or just Willow in general?
I mean, I think he's grown as an actor because he was a teenager the first time.
Yeah, it's a shame he doesn't get more starring roles.
Yeah,
he's very much like supporting actor a lot of the times, but he carried this.
He really did. Like, there was kind of what's the word I'm looking for? A kind of, not naivete exactly to Willow initially, not in the series, like in the movie, that he does such a good job of kind of saying in this interim 20-some years, how quickly this becoming a hero so young can disillusion you and kind of make you grumpy and grouchy. And it's very subtle. He's not like spelling it out. I mean, it is kind of spelled out, but he plays it very subtly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it could have been so obvious in the way he did it, and he didn't do it that way.
Krista especially loved this movie. I was terrified of this movie as a child.
The original is, I think, a lot darker because it's just nonstop action. There's less humor. I mean, the whole premise is they're going to try and murder this baby.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot darker of a film. And I felt like maybe a little more even just in tone than maybe the TV show was, but we can get to that.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate that, obviously Willow came back, but then they have such a great cast. And they did a good balance of having him as the returning character, but then also giving room for new characters to kind of spring up and have their growth.
Yeah, and I really love his relationship with Alora.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he has become the archetype of the mentor now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In this series. And they kind of have like a father-daughter relationship, really.
I'm really trying very hard not to spiral into Star Wars. I'm like, he's the Luke to her Rey. Anyway.
It's Lucasfilm. There is a lot of Star Wars parallels.
This is the third sequel trilogy film, as far as I am concerned.
I love how he becomes like a paternal figure to all the young characters.
Mm-hmm.
His relationship with Graydon, Prince Graydon, who doesn't have a good relationship with his own father.
No.
He is the character who's like, okay, yeah, you're engaged to Kit now. And Kit's like, I like someone else. No, thank you. And Graydon really admires Willow because Willow's heroics have been told throughout the land. Very Luke Skywalker-esque.
Telling you.
Yeah, and it's not clear from the stories that the way he defeated Bab Mordo was doing his disappearing pig trick, and then she just like tripped into her own trap.
He didn't do much to correct it, but then again, I'm not sure how much of that he heard.
Yeah. It's like the game of telephone. Things get out,
I feel like he liked it in the beginning. He kind of like playing up to the hero that people thought he was and the big bad sorcerer. So yeah, I think he kind of liked it.
And then what we see, like with the kind of person he became, like very sort of rigid and whatever, like he loved the hero thing in the beginning, but the decades will wear on you. And suddenly it's almost like he started buying his own hype.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of made him into somebody who's a little more closed off, a little more hesitant and strict and rigid. And then it's through these like paternal relationships with all of the kids, not just with anyone in particular, that he sort of starts to redefine what it means, like what his own legacy means to each of them and how best to lean into that with each of them.
We see a flashback of Sorsha telling him that he's not a good sorcerer, which was very
like harsh.
I
And I
think
get
it
why
was,
she did it, but that was like really harsh.
I am thinking it's right after her husband disappeared. So she's in mourning.
I mean, I think it's after Mad Marty had disappeared. And I think it's also she's trying to get him to like leave Allura alone.
Yeah. She
So
just
I
wants.
get why she did it, but like, damn, Saoirse.
I honestly wish we had more Saoirse in the series. I feel like we didn't get enough of her.
I was just happy that Joanne Whaley came back as Saoirse, and I was glad that like a lot of people came back.
Yeah.
Like Warwick Davis as Willow, obviously. Mims, his daughter in the show, is his real life daughter. Rule the Brownie, Kevin Pollak came back. And then I didn't know it till I rewatched the movie today, but the Eborsisk, the two-headed fire-breathing dragon that you see at the end with the worm, was from the first movie too.
I don't mind that Saoirse wasn't in this a ton because they have such an ensemble cast of like new people.
Yeah.
And I also didn't see Willow for the first time until after the first trailer for this show came out. And I'm like, oh, that looks good. Maybe I should watch the movie. And then I saw the movie, so I don't have any kind of attachment to the movie.
Oh, yeah. It's
like nostalgic attachment. I mean.
Attachment like Krista and I have.
Like I like it.
Or
So I'm
nostalgic
attached
here.
in that way,
Those
but I'm not
dogs.
nostalgic for it at all.
I'm scared of those dogs. When they came back in the first few episodes, I was like, oh no, my childhood fear is back.
Well, it's so scary because they go after the baby, they go after the midwife,
And
and
kill the midwife. It just
they do. And rewatching this movie again, I realized she like took care of Allura for a long time as a baby, like from when she was just like newly born to when we see her. So she was with her quite a while. And then watching this as a parent now, it's a lot more terrifying.
Oh, I bet. I can't even imagine. Because, yeah, the first movie is just about protecting this baby, Allura. And it's just people wanting to kill her.
And she's so cute.
Cute little redhead. Okay, so Allura, a.k.a. Dove, a.k.a. Brunhilde.
Brunhilde. Seriously, Saoirse couldn't come up with a nicer name. She's like, I'm going to put you in the kitchen and your name's going to be Brunhilde.
Oh man, I would love to know Saoirse's thought process there.
And it's like, I wanted to give you a good life in the kitchen as my servant.
Again, I get what Saoirse was going for. I have some questions about the execution.
Yes, me too.
Allura is hilarious. Even when she's not trying to be. She's so snarky sometimes, and she's confident in some ways. But she has to go through this journey of being like, oh yeah, you're the empress of the realms. You're like a goddess in this world.
There's like a general thing I notice. I see it a lot with Allura. I see it a little bit with Kit and Jade too. It's something I generally don't like in fantasy is when they add like and stuff to the way they talk, like they speak a little more modern. Usually I find it very grating. But I find it's like a testament both to like the environment and to the cast that I did notice, but it didn't bother me like at all. And I think like the snark wouldn't have worked without it. So I'm glad they decided to go for it.
Are you saying just them saying like?
You know, like they would go, I don't know. It's like, like whatever they would say, like their snark sounded very modern, which generally I find takes me out of a story. But because of the dynamic they had already set up with everybody, I found it worked and it like didn't bother me at all.
When it comes to such a fantasy IP or fantastical world, I forgive a lot more with the modern language because obviously this is in our world.
Modern language, totally. For some reason, it's just certain slang things where I'm like, no, but I think it's maybe because I talk that way. So that's where my suspension of disbelief stops.
I was fine with it, except for there was one moment when she was fighting the crone. Allura was fighting the crone, and they kind of paused, and the crone said something, bitch. And it took me out of it so much, just the way they kind of pause for dramatic effect. And so that's the only time the language kind of took me out of it. What did you guys think of the modern music?
I loved it too. It was really well done and put, and like the covers. If it was the original, I think it might not have worked. But since it was a cover and like it just flowed better.
Very much like A Knight's Tale.
Yes,
exactly.
That was what I was thinking
the
too.
example I was going to use because it's like sort of like A Knight's Tale and sort of like Bridgerton in that the sentiment is a universal one. It's an applicable one, but we're sort of changing the instrumentation and all of that to make it sort of suit this tone. But the feeling is not a 21st century or 20th century feeling. It's an eternal feeling, whatever that feeling may be. So I thought it worked fine.
Okay, so let's go to Kit. Kit, the princess. What?
Did you think he's annoying? He's annoying.
A lot of people, I was surprised people thought she was annoying. I didn't find her annoying. I just found her going through this arc, this growth.
Kit is mean, which is why I like Kit.
She's a freaking princess.
Because as the sister of a brother, sometimes you just end up mean.
She's mean to Alora, though.
Yeah.
Like, she's jealous of her. She doesn't even tell her that her magic worked for quite a while, which is very important to their survival. And I just kept waiting for her to come around. And so I did in the end, like, that they came around and were friends. But I did find her annoying for the first so many episodes.
I just love how petty she is.
No, and I love that. I love that character, and I love Ruby Cruz. She looks like the daughter of Joanne and Val, It's insane.
And she and, I can't remember the actor's name who plays
Dimsy Brick. Who plays
Dimsy Brick. The two of them look like siblings.
They do.
Like, the casting was beautiful.
Yeah. But I loved it because she was like the spoiled princess who thinks that she is this amazing warrior, and Jay tells her, like, I let you win, kind of thing, because that's what she's a princess. So she has to go through these hardships and realize that, no, she's not the main character in every story. And she has to be like, okay, well, I'm the protector. I can help. I can do this. And I love her journey and her, like, how she becomes a better person.
Mm-hmm. I also find it interesting, like what you're saying about how she's not the main character of this story. In the beginning, like the first episode or so,
we follow her.
We follow her. And when her mom is like, you have to marry this person for the good of the kingdom, she's like, I don't want to because I'm in love with like this other person. She doesn't say that, but all of this is happening in the first episode, which is key, like main character stuff about like what she wants, what her journey is. And the story never puts that aside. She gets to sort of come into her own and find her love and find her purpose and all of that. But I find it interesting that her conflict hinges on that moment where she realizes she isn't the main character of this story. And even though she didn't want that at first, she also doesn't know what to do when she isn't the main character.
Yeah, again, she's a princess. She is, she's treated as royalty. Mm-hmm. She is used to catering to her. She doesn't mind getting her hands dirty, obviously. She's not like the normal stuck-up princess, but she's still a princess.
Mm-hmm.
And she has this, image to live up to of her father being the greatest swordsman of all time. Mm-hmm. And plus with him being gone, she wants that connection. She wants to be like him. So she kind of has that chip on her shoulder.
More so than I think Eric does, where would have had the freedom to be that and to be more like Mad Mardigan, where that's what Kit wants and what Kit can't do.
Let's go to Eric next. Eric is the twin brother of Kit. Apparently he is older by 1 minute, which I love when twins are like, I'm the oldest. But
what a himbo.
I know. He very much a himbo. Gorgeous idiot who doesn't even know the real first name of the girl he's dating and then proposes to, because he thinks Alora is just a kitchen maid who makes really good muffins.
Which
and he calls her
true.
Yeah, it's still true. She can be all things.
Mm-hmm.
But he calls her Dove.
Which I find I would not want to be called Dove. Doves are really kind of dirty and their eyes are kind of gross. And
I don't like birds in general, so I also wouldn't want to be called Deb.
What about penguin? Penguins are cute.
If some guy's like, oh, penguin, I love you so, like, I leave. That's when I leave. That's it.
Okay. Anyway, so I wish we had a little bit more time with him, but I understand he is the not the plot device. He is a driving force. He's the reason.
He's the catalyst.
Yeah, catalyst. He's the reason Alora tags along. Mm-hmm. He's the reason Kit goes. So that means Jay goes. And then Borman goes because Sorcha's like, go with my kid.
I like that the damsel in distress is a guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then it's most of the women in his life that are like, okay, guess we got to figure this out.
Yeah. And and the antagonist who's trying to like lure him to the dark is a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Which he falls for so quick, but I guess it was something in the water too.
So, something
was
in the
something
water,
in the
but also
water.
they did establish this about him fairly early on.
That he
That
just
does
falls
fall
in
for
love.
people very quickly.
Yeah, very easily. Kit is like, you just call her like Dove because you don't remember her name.
And I think like that's one of the things they had set up too, like that the crone appears however is most appealing to you,
Yeah.
whatever that may be. So Eric, being the way he is, she is a young, beautiful woman because that's the thing that's going to register with him.
I just love Jade and Kit's face. And then after, like right after Laura defeats the crone and he's kissing her, she turns into the crone and their faces are just hilarious.
It's disturbing.
Erin Kellyman, the master of the subtle facial expression, just like the way her nose just kind of wrinkles just a little bit. Like it's not an overt thing, but she's just like, no, don't like it.
Yes, Eric Kellyman, who plays Jade. If you just watch her in every scene, you get so much more from her character because she is a quiet type. You know, she is the knight, the guardian. When Borman ends up like jumping off the cliff to join them in the battle, the little smile she has on her face, she doesn't say anything to him, but she's like, yeah, she smiles.
Yes.
She's like, I knew he was going to come.
Yeah.
He's our friend. He's our family. And it's just this subtle thing that, you know, gives so much life to her character. So Jade, at first, I thought maybe she was a Laura because she had red hair.
Well, just because the way they cut from like, she's been hidden for her own safety and like you see the red hair and then you cut to Jade who has red hair and you're like, oh, that's a Laura Dannon.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was definitely a deliberate editing choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love this idea of a princess and her knight, you know, the forbidden love, but they, you know, they fall.
It's not even that forbidden. They're just both stupid.
Well, it's more like forbidden because she's engaged to somebody else.
Okay, well, fine. But they both seem to be in agreement that they just won't get married, even though they keep calling each other fiance. Because Braden's like, well, our parents did things their way. We can do things our way, which like, I guess like could be interpreted as, you know, we'll get married and we'll figure it out with just the other people. But I interpreted it as we don't have to actually get married. We could just agree to like have a treaty and have peace and just work together like friends. And he was perfectly happy to do that.
They just kept calling. I think it was like Borman was just making fun of them, be like, hey, your fiance's right over there, you know.
But I like that even Graydon would do it sometimes. He'd be like, I have to save Laura and my fiance. Like, just back that on. Like,
and my fiance's girlfriend too.
Oh man.
Oh, well, his crush on Laura, if he wasn't very good about hiding that from day one.
From anybody.
No.
But okay, back to Jade. I am so happy we got her and we got Kit together. It was like Arezou and I watched the first 2 episodes together and I'm like, oh, they're not just being like subtext. It's actual text.
Were you grabbing my arm or was I grabbing yours? Somebody was grabbing somebody.
I think it was like
There's a lot of this.
Yeah.
Like a lot of swatting going on.
We were in a very small theater where we were very cramped together. Arezou, it's happening. It's happening. It wasn't implied.
It was great. I thought it was really well done. And like you said, it didn't feel like something that they put in there for like tokenism or fan baiting or anything.
It's important to the story. It's not made a big deal that they're 2 girls in love. They just are. Mm-hmm. And again, that is what everybody who lacks representation wants. They don't want it to be representation because of representation. They just want to be in a story and be a person. And it was so natural. And you can't help but rooting for these 2 people.
And the crucial thing is, if you take out their love story, none of what they do makes sense in relation to each other. It's not like something you can just cut out and pretend it didn't happen or be ambiguous about it. Like their motivation stops making sense. Half their conversations don't make sense if you take out the fact that they're interested in each other.
Oh, I love the way Jade said, like, stay away from my princess. And it was just like, oh, that's so cute. But it was also like, ooh. But yeah, it was great. And she was wonderful as like kind of like the stoic, but brave. She had this really like very, very much at the beginning, maybe was the third episode where she had to kill her mentor.
Mhm.
Practically like the man who raised her and made her like believe she could be a knight because she was going to go off to like a night camp or something.
She was going to go off to Galadorn to join their knights.
Yeah. So the one person who really believed in her, and that's just like a very big character point that she's willing to make those sacrifices. And the thing is, Kit had to grow enough to be willing to do the same because Jade was already there.
Yeah. I think Jade's growth, I mean, grows as much as anybody can on the journey, but I think her growth is going to come down the line because there's that line her sister says before they separate of like, when this is all over, you have us and you have her and you have to decide like where you belong, like where your loyalty is. And I think that's going to be her big growth moment, is kind of figuring out how to have both.
Yeah.
I want to see more of that because it did seem really handy that all of a sudden, like, oh, these are my people. We're not going to die now. I magically found out where I'm from. So I'm going to want to see more payoff on that personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So my all-time favorite character of the series is Borman. I forget who said it on Twitter. They said he's like Jack Sparrow, but he's kinder and he takes showers.
Well, he's Mad Mardigan. I mean, he's this series' Mad Mardigan.
Yeah. Which I did love that they made him be like the mentee. So you understand where he got like the swagger from.
Yeah.
And
Like he's somebody who really wanted to be Mad Mardigan.
Yeah. He's cosplaying a little bit, but he but then he builds up and he becomes him at the end.
My favorite line of his, and he has a lot of great one-liners. My favorite is like right at the end when he comes out of the castle and there's that like triumphant fanfare, like he survived and he didn't die. And he's just like, I want my mom.
That's
like, I don't know what he saw in there. I don't know what he did, but he wants his mother and he wants her now.
He had such great humor.
I also liked right before they were going to like the city, he's like, anybody want to make out? Like, just,
bisexual, more representation in.
Throwing that out.
Oh, man.
God. But yeah, no. He goes from, it's very Han Solo-esque where he goes just like, goes from looking out for himself to giving up like this relic he had been looking for like half his life and giving it to Kit because he's like, it's not for me, it's for you. And then willing to sacrifice himself to buy them time at the end. And,
Yeah.
I also liked at the end when Eric is like, joins them. He's like, you're going to have to, keep up with us.
He's just very possessive of his new squad.
Yeah, it's his new family. It's adorable. And I that's the thing is what's so great about these characters and them being on this journey is very much like we get scenes of all them playing off of each other. They all have conversations. They all have these moments. And yeah, you really feel the relationships, which is something that's really great about it being a series versus a movie.
I think the format, like the series format, suited this a lot better than a movie did because that movie packs a lot into 2 hours. Where like I had to see it twice before I felt like I got it. And I still feel like I'm missing half of it. But I've seen it more than twice for the record, but I still feel like I'm missing parts of it. But I feel like having such an episodic series where each episode is like one complete segment of the journey, I think made the whole thing a lot easier to process, gave us a lot more time with the characters, with their growth, with the journey, with all of it. So I really like this format for this story. I also like happy fantasy that's not dark and gritty and bloody all the time. I mean, it had its moments. It had some pretty violent moments, but by and large, it was like the kind of fantasy I know I would have been completely obsessed with when I was like 13.
I really liked it, but I felt sometimes it was uneven from episode to episode or even within the episode because the tone would go from like really funny shenanigans to like some darker things like pretty quickly. And like, again, I enjoyed it, but sometimes I felt that was a bit uneven.
I mean, there was that scene where Kit and Jade are having that heart to heart and they're about to kiss. And then Kit just gets yeeted. And that made me jump on my couch.
That was the intention.
Yeah, I know it was.
Yeah.
But I was just like using that as an example. But okay, so we talked a little bit about, we talked about Kit and Jade. I'm going to talk about Alora and her love triangle, which is I think she's engaged to Eric, right? Like, they agreed.
She's engaged in that Eric proposed. I don't know that I believe him. I don't believe him.
How many times do you think he has proposed?
Exactly. I don't know. I can't begin to guess. I don't believe him. I don't trust him. I like him. I think he's a sweet little himbo, but I feel like when it came right down to it, if nothing had happened and they'd been allowed to just proceed, I don't think they would have made it down the aisle. And I think it would have been his fault.
But he really liked her muffins.
I bet he liked her muffin, but like,
well, if they had gotten married at Tierslien, I think there would have been like 5 other scullery maids that'd be like, he's engaged to me. Back off.
Like, does anybody object? Yeah. The entire staff of the household objects because they had a similar promise and Alora's the only one who managed to get him down the aisle.
So something that happens, I would say it's kind of subtle, but like Graydon falls really quickly for Alora. He's first just like intrigued by her when he finds out she is Alora Dannon. And then like by the time he gets possessed, he's like, I'm all in. He even tries to talk to Willow about it when they're captured and about to be put to death.
You know what I think is interesting is when Willow asks Alora like what she sees in Eric, and she's going, I don't know, he was nice to me and he talked to me and all of this kind of stuff. And I get where she's coming from, like with this need for affection that she wasn't really getting anywhere else. You could almost apply the same things to Graydon's feelings for Alora, is that she was kind to him. She talked to him. Like Kit took one look at him and went, absolutely not, blew up in his face and stormed off. So
he wasn't Jade.
Jade is just like not picking up any of that. But Alora, you know, he was nice to her. So she responded to that and she was really kind to him. So it's not in a creepy way of like, ooh, she was nice to me, therefore she's mine. But like in a, oh, this is like what kindness and affection can feel like. So that like triggered it. And then them just kind of getting along on the journey, I think pushed him into how he felt for her.
And since he was interested in magic too, you know, they have that stuff in common. And obviously Kit's not going to work out.
No.
And
Kit interested in a different swashbuckler's not the right word. Different warrior.
Yeah.
So while we're on the topic of the wedding that did not happen, I have one remaining question. So Alora did drink the worm's milk, even though she didn't go through with the wedding. Like, do we think there's any like ramifications from that?
The second Alora.
You think that's why she has her face?
Yeah, I think her drinking that milk slime thing, then at the wedding deciding, no, I'm not going to do what you tell me, caused like a split. And I think that's the ramification of that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an end credit scene where we see Graydon, who we think is killed. And there is Alora Dannon with a trauma bob haircut. And she's like,
just all in black to show she's serious.
Yeah, so she's very serious. And she's like, I want you to help me kill a lot of people. You know, kind of thing.
I mean, I'd be all in if she said that to me. I know. That was
she looked amazing.
Like, I like the evil Alora. Hello.
Yes. But okay, so this is something that I've been seen people talking about on Twitter especially, is that Alora was only able to access her like really big powers after someone died. After like a possible love interest died. Graydon, her friend even. It takes that for her to like really.
Are they saying this in the respect of like she had to sacrifice to access her power? Is that what they're saying?
I don't know if it's a sacrifice because she didn't sacrifice him, but that's. But like we see that a lot with heroines' journeys is they give up something and then they can access.
Right.
Or they can defeat the big bad.
Well, I like that doesn't seem to be permanent.
Yeah, that was my thing too. It's like, I don't
'Cause I
think he's
hate
really
that.
gone.
Oh, yeah. It was obvious he wasn't gone.
Yeah.
And they put, and that also at the end, when the whole thing's done, because it's a book and everything's a chapter, they put away volume 1 and there's volume 2 and 3, which makes you think we get 2 more seasons at least.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
if it was permanent and we didn't see anything of him, I would get that. But
this would be a very different conversation.
yeah. But since he's there somehow with evil Laura.
So I wonder if this is just their way of subverting that idea of you have to lose something in order to gain your full power, where she thinks she's lost it. So she taps into like that primal rage, fury power that she was maybe like holding off on because she officially had nothing left to lose in her view.
Yeah.
But also she hasn't really lost it. So how does she rein back from this unleashed, angry Allura that she probably is, even like in the non-worm version?
And she also hasn't lost everything. She has this new family now. She has Willow. She has Kit and Jade and even Borman,
Yeah, like she has them, but I feel like he was her person. So that losing him, I think it is the like, what's the point? Even if like there are other people there who love you.
Do you think she was returning his affections? That she was like falling in love with
one
him?
of those things where if you had asked her 2 minutes before he died, she'd say no. But if you asked her 2 minutes after, she would have a different answer.
Because she was still walking down that aisle with Eric, and of course she does stop it.
And she says, I'm not that into you. So I think this is like her kind of having that moment of realizing not only she's not into Eric, but maybe she might be into somebody else. But I do think like, I think she's like, I don't even think she knows that yet, but I think her feelings before Graydon, quote unquote, dies and after, like, are very different. Like within 2 minutes, 2 minutes before, 2 minutes after, I think she would have had a very different answer if you asked her how she felt about it.
Yeah, because it's also the possibility. She's like, I just got out of a engagement,
Yeah. It'd be like, I don't know. She loses him and it's like, oh my God, what have I lost?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we shouldn't read too much into this magic system because it's not very fleshed out. Like Allura is this all-powerful, sorcerer with limited training. She's even more powerful than the crone. Some incantations are needed for magic, but sometimes you can just do magic CPR on people. So it's kind of all over the place. So
sometimes you need a wand. Sometimes you need a staff.
Well, the wand and the staff thing they did explain is that it's a conduit, like whatever it is, like the flute, the wand, the staff, and sometimes you just don't need a conduit. What I thought was interesting about this unfleshed out magic system, I didn't realize until a couple episodes in that Willow actually can do magic, like intense magic. Because I got the impression he wasn't very good at it.
Yeah, it seemed like
he's like, I'm the High Old One. I'm like, but you're bad at your job. And then like, no, I guess he is actually a good sorcerer. So
I just think he's not like up to like what the legends say. The legends.
No, just even compared to like the movie, like a lot of it seemed like very basic magic and a lot of ingenuity. And then that sort of was supported by the first 2 episodes. And then they keep asking him for all this magical advice. I'm like, well, he's not really doing much. So I kind of thought the whole thing was he doesn't really know how to do all this. But then that seemed to go away about halfway through the series.
Yeah, it's like, I thought maybe he was going to be like, I'm storing it up. I have to store it up, for when we really need it. And then bam, he was just like throwing punches.
I guess maybe like it was one of those things where he thinks he can do it, but he doesn't really have the confidence to do it. And then as he's training Allura and eventually Graydon, like kind of gains that confidence for himself and becomes better at it.
What did you guys think of Christian Slater's like guest starring role in an episode? I thought that was a nice like homage to like having an 80s actor, like a fellow 80s actor.
I forgot how handsome Christian Slater is.
He's still gorgeous.
Yeah. I was watching a movie last night that Christian Slater was also in. It was like a young Christian Slater. So seeing this and then now talking about him now, like just genuinely forgot. Just recently, I'm being reminded how handsome Christian Slater is.
I just felt that his storyline was just so predictable. Like you knew that he was going to say he was Mad Mardigan. You knew that he was going to be the one who had betrayed her father. And like, I don't know. It just felt so predictable the whole time.
What did you think of, Eric being like kind of controlled by the crone after the crone is defeated and Kit having to fight her brother?
I thought he was dead.
I
I thought that boy was dead.
both in the Eric with the crone thing and with the Christian Slater plot, I found both were like a story beat I could have predicted, but I feel like given the tone of the series, I'm like, that makes sense. Like we're hitting the familiar beats in kind of like a slight, like with a bit of a twist. The twist being like the performance, the environment. Like they didn't really subvert the ending at all, which honestly I'm fine with. So yeah, I thought it was like something I could have predicted, but that I don't think that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't think that we have to have our expectations always subverted in stories. I think sometimes you can just tell these character beats in a different way. The thing is with twists, sometimes they work. The Laura Dannon twist was great because it didn't go against anything else we knew.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. And it's like a twist works only if it makes sense. And it made sense because at first you're like, wait, she's blonde. And then, but you have a flashback and like, oh, they dyed her hair with whatever medieval dye.
Bleached it, yeah.
And I liked how the more magic she did, the more red her hair got throughout.
It wasn't very sudden. Like there was little wisps of red and then she did that one huge spell and her hair just went red.
Yeah. It was like after she helped like depossess Graydon, like you see streaks of red.
I just thought that was funny because when she was explaining to Willow, like as a child, why her hair is blonde, it sounds like that's something that should just wash out.
Yeah.
But then it didn't. But yeah, I liked it. I like that the transformation was visual too, like for all of them, like be it various states of dishevelment or in her case, her hair, or like their clothes, like they're losing items of clothing because they just can't be bothered to put them back on. Like I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah. What did you think of Kit's Iron Man knight armor?
That was badass. No wonder she didn't want to take it off. She didn't know how to. Didn't know how, but I think even if she knew how, she'd be like, but this is really cool. And Jade's looking at her like,
Jade, what do you think?
Can wear that. You can wear that.
So I grew up on novels by Tamara Pierce, which is all like lady knight stuff. This felt exactly like that. Like Kit put on the armor. I'm like, so when they make a movie adaptation of that, let's look at Ruby Cruz. Let's consider because she really rocks that armor. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think something I just like really liked about the series in general is it's very accessible. Fantasy can sometimes feel very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because there's so much world building that you feel like you can't enter. Like I didn't watch the Lord of the Rings series because I read the books and watched the original movies. That was years ago. I felt like I would have been lost. I probably wouldn't have, but
You'd probably be fine, but as somebody who has seen both, there is a sense with Rings of Power, first of all, that there's a lot going on and it's a lot to keep track of. And also, like, you'll be fine if you haven't watched the movies recently or read the books recently, but there's little things they drop in there that you will pick up on if you've read all that and if you've read the Silmarillion, which I haven't. So that's one thing. But like this one, I feel like arguably watch this without seeing the movie.
yeah,
You get more out of it if you've seen the movie. But you could very easily just watch this without.
Yeah. Well, you follow the same core group of people. It's not like you're bouncing all over everywhere. So it's easier to keep track. Plus, I thought, and again, I'm someone who's seen the movie a bunch of times, but I thought the flashbacks that they included gave enough explanation of the movie for new people. I'd be interested to see what someone who hasn't seen the original movie would say. But I thought like they gave you everything you needed to know to explain things, but it wasn't too overbearing.
Yeah.
And I thought too, like, even within their own world building, like without looking back at the movie, if they're like, we have to go across, what is it called? The Shattered Sea. We have to go across the Shattered Sea. The Shattered Sea is endless. Okay, we're going to say that this week and we're going to say it next week too. Like, just so we're all on the same page. It's an endless sea. Cool. And like any little bit of mythology that they introduce or world building or whatever, they make sure they reiterate it organically a couple times. It's like, are we all on the same page? Are we all in agreement? Cool. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
And those things were like familiar because, you know,
Yeah.
in lots of other fantasy, you have like an endless desert or sea, or you have to take a leap of faith off a cliff.
Yeah.
So they're things that were like familiar to people from other stories.
Where tropes come in handy. Like
Mhm.
I was saying this on another podcast about something completely different, but the nice thing about tropes is that they kind of do half of the brain work for you, is that you have seen this before. So you don't need to really read that much into it. Like your brain already knows what's going on. And we can tell the rest of our story based on that, like previous understanding.
And yeah, I really, like you were saying, Krista, it's a very core cast, and we just follow like this group of people, and occasionally there's a few others, but I feel like that's what you get, a very character-driven story versus action-driven stories. And that's my preference, is focusing on the characters and relationships, and I really love that. Do you guys think we'll get another season?
I hope we do.
I do too. It was so freaking good. It was so much fun. I feel like this is something like also like, it's not children, but like for preteens and teens, like whose parents aren't going to let them watch Game of Thrones. But like
Children could watch it like young as 8 years old. I think they might get something out of it. They might not get everything out of it, but
yeah,
they'll enjoy
It is simplified that, a younger audience could watch it.
oh, a new generation can be scared of the dogs like I was.
Candace is just very excited for generational trauma to perpetuate.
Yes, they're going to be like, the 2020 movies are so scary. Geez, what were they doing to kids back then? Like we talk about the 80s movies.
80s movies were dark.
So were 90s. So were these now. But I feel like there's so much more. But like, I just want to say cinematography was gorgeous. The colors.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I love that. My dad complains a lot about how movies today are too dark. TV shows are too dark, or they're too gray, or anything like this. But this was just so bright and colorful.
It was so bright and colorful that when it did go dark, it like went dark with a purpose. It wasn't dark just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
I liked them subverting the trope of like the mindless trolls. Trolls being like very organized and
talking very polished and very dignified.
British.
Yes,
I
loved that.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah. No, they just, talking, doing their stuff. But yeah, just really loved all the characters, the relationship dynamics, and want to see more. Like, how does Eric get over being like into the crone?
Oh, but that's what the darker middle chapter is for.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the middle chapters always gets darker.
Him brooding and Alora being torn between her dark self and her like present self, and Jade and Kit are like, how do we move forward with this? And Borman is just being Borman. Like,
Mormon's just like, yeah, I'm a hero.
They have to rescue Graydon from hot Alora.
But they don't know. They have to find out,
I know.
And
I mean,
honestly,
that poor boy, he's
I know.
drooling.
Yeah.
What if Graydon becomes like dark Graydon alongside dark Alora, and they're just evil together?
We love that.
I love that.
We love
See, that could happen, but he's turned evil so many times already.
But that's the thing. He's turned evil twice. He was possessed as a kid, and he was possessed again. Things happen in threes. He's got to be possessed one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
Excellent.
Arezou, I'm very shocked you did not bring up Kylo.
That's because I know my audience.
Because there was so much Kylo stuff here. The prince aspect.
Yeah. Like, no, but actually, like, I just don't even know where to start. I could wax poetic about Eric and Graydon being aspects of Kylo Ren and Ben Solo independently. And it's just, I don't even know where to start with this.
Okay. Candace, why did you get her started?
I don't know.
She's overwhelmed. So
honestly, yes, I'm overwhelmed. There's honestly nothing I could say that hasn't been said already.
Sad frowny prince.
Sad frowny prince. Somebody give me a t-shirt of Kylo Ren. This is sad frowny prince.
Well, now I know what to get Arezou for her birthday.
Yay.
But yeah,
no, just all of it, honestly. I said it off the top, like John Kasdan, it's like he gave people who got very sad in December 2019 a fix you. That's what this reads like.
It was, overall, the story was just very satisfying.
Yes.
And again, like, love seeing a bunch of women also on the quest, you know?
Mhm.
When I was younger, when Lord of the Rings came out, I was like, what's up with all these dudes? You know?
Yeah.
Or girls. Of course, I didn't. I was like, oh, yeah. Lord
It's
of the Rings.
also, it's satisfying in that if you stop it as Alora's like looking back at the worm before she like goes to catch up with the group, if you stop it right there, you could tell yourself like, okay, you know, they're going to fight the worm one day. They will win one day, but we're happy for now. We're settled for now.
Mhm.
And then, you know, you cut to Graydon and hot Alora and it's just, oh, there's all this other stuff going on. And obviously the mission's not over. But in that respect, I think it was satisfying that you could stop here. I just hope we don't stop here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. There is a kind of a cliffhanger, but
closure too, which I think
Yeah,
is very
yeah.
important.
I agree.
it told a cohesive story. It was a volume 1.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else?
Season 2, please.
Yes. Season 2, please.
And 3.
Three seasons in a movie, and we already got the movie. So 2 more
So just
seasons.
2 more seasons.
If there's 3 books, like you said, that they already showed, then they have promised us 3 seasons. So they better deliver.
I mean, that's up to Disney.
It's canon now. They need to have 3 books.
Give us a
3
trilogy.
seasons. Please.
Okay. Where can people find you online, Arezou?
You can find me on Twitter at Arezou and Mean. You can find me everywhere else. So Instagram, Hive, Tumblr at ArezouD2. And you can find me writing on the Geeky Waffle and
Great.
podcasting here too.
And Krista, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Krista Geeks Out. And occasionally I also write for the website.
Yeah, and you can find me at Candace is a Geek on Twitter, Candace Call everywhere else. You can find us at thegeekywaffle.com, geeky_waffle on Twitter, the Geeky Waffle everywhere else, including YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube, please. And yeah, we hope you all have a happily ever after until, oh my God, the worm comes and the crone seduces your brother. And it's really awkward.
And your
No.
hair turns red.
Do either of you have brothers? Because if not, I'm the only one who's feeling very awkward by the worms seducing their brother.
Yeah, I don't have a brother. Nope.
Okay, great.
Great. On that note.